Okay, so we'll do, we can do some questions and answers and things. And what would you like to know? You've got both of us here, and you can ask questions of either one of us. It's a little fire. They've been falling down. Every now and then the buckets would actually fall down too. It was really impressive. So you can ask one, both, either, neither. You can ask porrid questions. What would you like? This is the... Yes, in purple. Absolutely.
What was it like working with Ben Folds?
My last...
Repeat the question.
Yeah. She asked what it was like working with Ben Folds. Ben Folds produced the album Who Killed Amanda Palmer, which I think, like I said, came out in September. It was really good. He, he's primarily a piano-playing, songwriting performer, and so for him to produce a record, but he had produced some records before. He produced this amazing record by William Shatner. And I'm not kidding. It's amazing. People are nodding in agreement. And that record actually, it sort of unfortunately got buried in the land of nobody knew what to make of it, and so it sort of just disappeared. But it was actually a really brilliant record. And Ben, obviously, like he wanted to produce my record, and I sort of said yes without hesitating because I felt like I could inherently trust him because he came from the same world that I was in, which is that he understood what it was like to be a singing, songwriting, piano playing person, and I was also a fan of his music, and so he did what any good producer should do, which is he took me into his studio and I had a bunch of songs and he helped me pick which songs to go on the record. He helped me arrange them. He not only helped pick what instruments to put on them, but in a lot of the cases in songs like Guitar Hero or Astronaut, he played a lot of the instruments himself and just sort of, it was the first situation I'd ever been in making a record where I played the basic piano track and then he said, okay, come back in a week and I'll have a finished song for you. And I basically, walked away and said like, okay, sure, I bet it'll sound great. But he totally delivered it, and he did a fantastic job, and he made me feel at every moment that I could really trust him to do that, and then be able to give him feedback that he could then use to tweak things to get them exactly the way I wanted. Say what? Yeah. Well, I mean, producers are a weird kind of people, because their job is not only to make your music sound good, but it's also to make you feel safe as an artist. So they're almost like part engineer and part psychologist. But it was really wonderful. And he actually, if you haven't heard it or haven't gotten it, Ben also put out his own record right at the same time I did, like a week later. It's called Way to Normal, and it's awesome. So I hope that sort of answered your question. And let's pick another one with the camera.
This is working out perfectly.
Tori Amos's delirium, quite good. Where does Amanda sit in?
Well, the trouble with a statement like Tori Amos's delirium is it's true and it's not true. Delirium was a character I created before I ever met Tori, and actually based a little bit on a writer I knew called Kathy Acker, who's now unfortunately dead, a good friend of mine. There was some of that went into delirium. Then when I met Tori, it was very weird because there was a sort of feeling of, oh my God, I made you up. And, occasionally I would steal things that Tori would actually say and give them to delirium to say. And I suspect that sometimes, it worked the other way around. Amanda, well, actually, of course, the joy of meeting Amanda was I immediately got to fictionalize her. And I immediately got to fictionalize her as about, 17 or 18 different Amanda Palmers, all dead. Which is really a great way to, make friends with somebody. You just kill them a lot. in a variety of really interesting and fun ways. And you try and make every murder completely different. In the book, I got to kill her as an art exhibit. Got to kill her by typewriter, which is actually, I think, one of my favourite short stories, because it's this, you begin with just a photograph of a dead woman on the ground with a manual typewriter by her head, and these sort of jottings that the police made, trying to figure out, was this an act of God, or whatever. And then you read this little short story about a couple in a hot air balloon. And he's working on his novel, and eventually she just says, nothing you write ever has any influence on anything that ever happens in the real world, and she throws his typewriter out of the hot air balloon, and they drift along. So, yes. But I'm sure that she'll continue to, crop up in interesting fictional ways. She's a very interesting fictional person, so...